Shawn's now going to actually lead you through the process that the staff went through in order to build the 2012 operating account expense budget.
Mike so far has given you quite a bit of detail through 2011 and giving you a bit of a preview for 2012. What I hope that we could do now is for you guys to really see a full picture how we're managing 2012. And so there's some details here that I kind of want to go through with you because I think it's really important you need to know how we do it. In effect, we have an operating budget that the session just approved that Mike was talking about that's nearly $6.3 million. Of that $6.3 million, there are a couple of things I think they're important to note out. Number one, in the handout, there is the budget for 2012 and the third page. Right alongside, you could also see the 2011 budget plus the 2011 actual. And then the final column of the 2012 session-approved budget. This is a great tool if you want to see by department in our strategic areas how we've broken out the budget and how it's changed in the last 2 years. This year for 2012, rather than trying to go each of these different line items, I just want to call out 6 different areas for you that have changed in an increase. Number one, probably the biggest, which makes up over $207,000 increase, are what we call rollover adjustments. Every department from 2011 to 2012 is rolling over. If you recall, in the last 3 years prior to this last year, so in the last 4 years, we've had 2 different reductions, major reductions, refining our budget, going all the way down, taking literally every piece of the budget, putting it out in the parking lot and bringing it back in. Really what I would say, a true zero-based budget. Now we're at a different place. We've had a couple of years of refining the budget, doing some things, and now, of course, we're still always refining, but at the same time, we don't find ourselves at this point, the beginning of 2012, cutting things, but there are some things need to roll over. The biggest bulk of that $200,000 are things like Brian Eckelman, who came in halfway through the year, now seasonalized for the full year. There are 3 different people on staff on maternity leave. There are things like our 403B, our IRAs for the staff, a number of people qualifying this year, and our medical benefits have gone up in price, unlike many of your own businesses, by the tune of about 18%. Not just for our staff, but even our pastor's board of pensions increases in both areas. If you take all of those changes, not doing anything new, but just the cost of doing business as a church, that rollover budget is about $207,000. And that goes out in many different places on that spreadsheet. The next big change after that is in our serve department. If you could see from the graph there, we're going down by $100,000. We're going from a budget of $1.2 million to a budget of $1.1 million. But what's really important to say here, $93,000 of that $100,000 was all tied up in salaries. And one of the things that we talked about at length was having transparency, not putting that back in salaries or something else, and wanting to make that mission number as true a picture for serve as we can. The next big item that is changing is a placeholder in compensation for the associate pastor. Now, I don't know if Jack's in the room. I have not asked Jack in the last couple of months when he thinks we're going to get an associate pastor, but I have, throughout the whole year, projected a start date of July 1st, knowing full well that if we receive and call a pastor, the terms of call would still have to be approved by you, the congregation. But still needing a budgetary number, there's a budgetary number in the 2012 budget for that. There was another area that we did where there were a number of staff that we need to make salary adjustments to, because in the last 1.5 to 2 years, when we've had some reductions in salary, we've had some increased responsibility on some of the staff. And quite frankly, some of the job descriptions for their different areas, whether you work in the support part of our organization as an administrative assistant or part of the ministry staff, formerly program staff, wherever you were, there was some fundamental changes in job description that we did not have in equity, or we needed equity, and so we had to make some changes there. One of the biggest changes I've been working on really hard in the last 1.5 years, and that's keeping up the facilities. Quite frankly, Glen Allen and Newport Real Estate Service has been doing a fantastic job supporting us, but we have gone through 2 landscape companies and 2 janitorial companies just to try to keep up the load at a budget number. And finally, by the end of this year, I just had to look at many of the people on Leadership Corps, that's the previous management committee, and work through that we just need more money if we're going to fund a lot more trees, a lot more bushes in our increased facility, particularly with all our events. So most of that increases hit the administration line item in lead core, but those were the 2 biggest changes there. The final 2 changes, probably the most minor but still very important, there were modest increases this year to what we call modern worship. Brandon Munchow leading that area, and also with our child care. I don't know if you know this or not, but we got a lot more kids. And the needs of our nursery and our child care have gone up quite a bit. Next area I want to just overview with you is our capital reserves. And again, Mike gave you an overview for this, gave you a picture to come. One of the things that we're managing this year is a capital funding requirement, a minimum that they asked us for in the capital reserve study of $455,000. And basically what Glenn and I and Eric Estes on behalf of the AV, we got together and worked with the analysts from the capital reserve study and basically looked at all of the new AV and the information technology as well as the audio visual. We looked at the facilities, anything from those 54 package units of heating and air conditioning units, roofs on buildings, you name it. Everything in this facility was studied, was put to about a 20-year maintenance program. Now, one of the reasons why we felt like we did this is not only the change in the economy, where we have to plan a little bit more ahead, and because families with the amount of debt, with the amount of issues going on with our own environment right now here in Orange County, it was going to be much more difficult to be what I would call hat in hand for an offering for a new roof, to replace those package units. So one of the things that we were working at really hard, and we now have, is a plan that has been approved by this session, where in the next 20 years, we know, at least roughly, what it's going to cost to maintain all the beautiful facilities to keep it up as you see it right now. And we've broken it apart in a couple of different areas. There are facilities expenditures as well as audio-visual expenditures. And one of the things that Mike asked us to do, we've been able to do, is really look at the difference. The capital reserve study, for the most part, is replacement. So one day, part of this wood may need to be replaced. Different things in this campus. A roof may need to be replaced. We may need to replace these different monitors you see up here that are quite an undertaking. We still have the old ones in there if anyone wants to buy them. It's about as big as a Volkswagen, I swear, that are sitting in there. Be happy to sell those to you if anybody wants it. Although one's not working, so I better not sell that one to you. But we want to differentiate from things like that that are capital replacement, but still at times there's going to be capital improvements. Things that we're going to need to do just to keep the place up that aren't necessarily replacement. And so we're differentiating that. I think one of the important things for you to know that they've empowered me with people like Gabe and Eric and others and Glen Allen to manage that. But I have a report, and I go back to that management committee, Leadership Corps, and review that every month. There is a schedule for 12 months against those expenditures, and we're tracking every one of them and talking through those at the Leadership Corps meeting.